Welcome back to the Cossy Arsenal channel. My name is Cossy. Welcome back to a brand new video. So Arsenal are in advanced talks to sign Eberechi Eze this summer. It's finally happening. Arsenal are signing a number 9 after a very long time, and we're also signing a very decent number 10 after OZIL. That was also a very long time ago. Arsenal are focused on getting a number 10 and a number 9. This summer is surely one of the best summers I have ever seen at Arsenal. So in this video, let's dive into what do we know about the Eberechi Eze deal to Arsenal. That's number 1. Number 2, how exactly does it compare with the players we have at the team right now and the players that we have been linked with? Morgan Rogers, Morgan Gibbs-White, Xavi Simons. How does Eberechi Eze really compare with these guys? And most importantly, where does he play? Where does he fit in? I mean, we play with a 4-3-3. Can he even play in that system in a 4-3-3? And could Arsenal shift into a 4-2-3-1 with the arrival of Eze and, of course, Victor Gyökeres? Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as well. We are discussing all that and more in this video. Well, what do we know about the deal? First and foremost, Arsenal have now strengthened their interest in signing a new attacking midfielder after the arrival of a new number 9. Now, Arsenal believe when you sign a number 9, it is kind of a prerequisite that you sign a number 10. It's kind of a needed condition that you have a number 10. We want to increase our creativity in order to feed the number 9 in order to get the goals. And Arsenal under Andre Bata are saying that we've got a few options in Morgan Rogers, looked at as one of the players that can come in and play in that number 10. Morgan Gibbs-White, obviously a number 10 already at Nottingham Forest, is another player we're looking at. And Xavi Simons with Eberechi Eze. All these are players Arsenal have discussed as part of the plan to bring in a creative midfielder. And Bilal El Hanous at Leicester City. But most of the other deals are really complicated and they're not happening. And I'll explain to you a little bit later. Now, the departures of 2 players, Emile Smith-Rowe and Vieira, kind of a fundamental to what is going on with Eberechi Eze. Obviously, there is talk about Ethan Nwaneri maybe leaving, maybe staying, but Ethan Nwaneri is seen as a number 10, but Mikel Arteta might look at him as one that is not yet ready to take on the responsibility and the task to take Arsenal to the next level. And I absolutely agree. Now, I'm not saying Ethan Nwaneri should be sold. I'm not saying he should be sent out on loan. I'm just saying that if you have Nwaneri as the player that you're going to, bank on, it's a little bit too naive for a team like Arsenal, for a team of our caliber. It's a little bit naive. But if you tell me that you have Odegaard and you also have Eberechi Eze and then there is Nwaneri as well, I think Nwaneri can get good game time, especially we have more games in the Champions League, we have got more games in the FA Cup, and we have more games in the Carabao Cup as well. So Nwaneri will get his time, but Eberechi Eze and Odegaard will be the core number 10s to make sure that Arsenal have enough creativity. So, the departure of Fabio Vieira obviously opens up a gaping hole in the position. You will sign Vieira as a typical number 10 to create chances, and he didn't work out in the Premier League. Some people say he's too small, some people say he's too slow, some people say the manager was disappointed with Fabio Vieira and things actually didn't work out. Whatever the case, his departure and Emile Smith-Rowe's departure open up a gaping hole and a deficiency for Arsenal to feed, and that is why we've gone for Eberechi Eze at Crystal Palace. Now, the player is obsessed with Arsenal. That much we know. He's given the green light to join Arsenal, and all contacts and talks and negotiations and communication lines with Tottenham Hotspur have been severed. He doesn't care about Tottenham. He doesn't want to go to Tottenham. He's focused on Arsenal. And the reason for that, we are told, is that Eberechi Eze is a big Arsenal fan. He was part of the Arsenal Academy when he was still young, I think about 6 years. And then he was released because Arsenal at the time felt he wasn't good enough. That is like 21 years ago. Arsenal felt Eberechi Eze wasn't good enough. How time flies, right? And now Arsenal are desperate to sign Eberechi Eze once again. But the player is sold onto a move to Arsenal, and this is going to make the deal a little bit easier for Arsenal. One, there's going to be competition on this deal. So if you're going to get it done, it resembles the Gyökeres deal, where you have Gyökeres as one of the top number 9s in the world, and he says to all teams, I want to play for Arsenal. I want to go to Arsenal. Whatever happens, my interest is in playing for Arsenal. Now that might seem a little bit of kind of like players can do that. But why that is important is this, right? You're signing a player who's committed, but also you're signing a player that is helping you to get a good deal. Imagine if your case was like, I've agreed personal terms with Arsenal, then Manchester United, then Juventus. What would have happened is that it would have given Sporting a lot of power in negotiations. They would have told Arsenal, if you don't give us 90 million euros, we shall talk to Juventus. If you don't give us 90 million euros as well, we'll talk to Manchester United. But because Gyökeres only wanted to play for Arsenal, that opened up a dark situation for Sporting where they were like, we are now between a hard place and a rock. All we've got to do is find our way to safety. So Eberechi Eze is doing the same. He's not pressurizing Crystal Palace. This is a very, very critical point. He's not pushing to be out of Crystal Palace. He's not underappreciating or becoming stubborn to Crystal Palace. But he's saying, if there is a chance for me to move, and that chance is to Arsenal, I am going to take it 12%. Okay, now in terms of the price, he's got a release clause of about 68 million. We've discussed this on the channel as well. But Arsenal is saying, what if we could agree a deal below 68 million? Now, that is where the other point we've been talking about of the player being 110% fully committed to the Arsenal move works. Because Palace are going to be like, okay, we don't have competition because the player only wants to play for Arsenal. And our release clause is 68 million. Maybe do we negotiate and allow him leave for the good work he has done for our club? Do we not negotiate? Now, we're being told that the release clause of the player is quite very complicated because his former team have got a percentage. Eze himself and his agents have got a percentage of the 68 million, and Crystal Palace also have a percentage. But if Arsenal can sit with Palace and discuss, this deal and maybe say, listen, we have 60 million cash, right? Or we have 55 million and 5 in add-ons. I think a deal can be done. So Arsenal hoping that it's a big summer. It's a very, very busy summer. Can we get some subsidies from here and there so that we can make all the deals that we want to happen? The move is not connected to the center forward. It's not connected to the left winger and the right winger. So Arsenal could sign Eze and sign a right winger and sign a left winger as well if the money is there and if the right conditions are met for the right players. But the question is, why Eze, right? Yes, we know Tottenham have been there. We know that a couple of other clubs also were interested in Eze. Even Manchester City, before signing Tijani Reinders, they had an eye on Eberechi Eze. But why have Arsenal decided to go for an attacking midfielder that is Eze? So why Arsenal decided to go for an attacking midfielder is kind of like very, very, very vivid, black and white. We are struggling with creativity and we are adding a center forward. You don't want to have a center forward who is underfed. We want to have a center forward that is created and catered for. That is why Arsenal have decided to go for a number 10 or an attacking midfielder. But why Eberechi Eze? This is what we are getting, and this is why Arsenal went for Eze. Number one, you're getting a Premier League proven player, and we know one of the very difficult positions to adapt to when you're coming to the Premier League is attacking midfield. Because Premier League teams, especially the bottom 10, basically much of their work is to stop you from attacking through the middle and just freezing your attack, as simple as that. So you have seen systems like 10-0. We have seen systems like 9-1. There's 9 players sit in shape, leaving just one up top. Or we've seen like a 5-4, where you've got a layer of 5 defenders and then another layer of 4 defenders in front of them. So when you're an attacking midfielder of a top team in the Premier League, at times you're gonna struggle, and the reason as to why you're gonna struggle is most of the time you're playing against a low block. And Eberechi Eze would know this because he's been in the Premier League and he doesn't need a lot of adapting to do. He doesn't have a lot of he doesn't need a lot of time to actually come around to the standards of the Premier League. And why this is very crucial is this: imagine Arsenal are looked at as if you don't win this season, Ogena Tugambach, what are you going to tell us, right? So if Arsenal are really being looked at as a team that have to win this season, you need Premier League proven players. You need players that are ready to go. I think the Athletic called them win now players. Players that are ready to come into this Arsenal team and give us trophies and give us silverware right about now. The second reason as to why Eze is such a very good player is the experience. He's 27. He's been at Crystal Palace for quite some time. And yes, we've talked about his experience in the Premier League. This team has bled a lot of experience. If Trossard leaves and Jorginho has gone and Partey has gone, well, it's not looking good, and Tomiyasu has gone as well. So you might need a bit of experience coming in, especially with the likes of Gyökeres as well. They're new to the league. It's a higher jump. He's experienced, but Premier League is different from Portugal and Championship and Coventry, right? That's why most of the teams that are coming from the Championship are going straight back down. So the experience of Eberechi Eze is something that Arsenal will benefit from, and something that why Arsenal targeted him. And then you've got the creativity and the goals. His numbers don't lie. Like, I look at Eze and I'm like, how do you have these numbers? And these strikers and forward players we have at Arsenal are having petty, embarrassing numbers. Like, you find a guy is having like 9 goals. No Arsenal player scored 10 goals or more last season, period. And Eberechi Eze had double figures in goals and double figures in assists last season. Need I go on in terms of explaining? I don't think I do. So it will boost Arsenal's creativity. It will also boost our number of goals we score, because the midfield now has players. Rice will give you an occasional 10 in a season. That's good. Odegaard, an occasional 10 in a season. That's good. And then Eberechi Eze, for me, 12 to 15. That is very good. If you have a goal machine in Gyökeres that can do 20, Saka can do 15 or 16, and the left winger can do 10 to 12 as well. So it's going to revolutionize the way Arsenal look at goals and the way we score goals. And of course, then there is the versatility. He will allow us to have that Martin Odegaard replacement or backup. He will allow us to have that Rice ready backup. Can play on the left wing, on the right wing as well. He's such a gifted player, honestly. But how does it compare with the players we have? Now, in terms of creativity, I think it's closer to Odegaard, because Rice, Merino, Kai Havertz, Vieira, Nwaneri, those are like standards below him, right? But in terms of creativity, he comes closer to Odegaard. I think both of them can have a season where on their best day, Odegaard has had like 15 assists, and Eze has had like 15 assists as well. But the difference between these two is Eze wants to play closer to goal. Odegaard wants to play far away from goal as possible, because Odegaard is a safe player and Eze is a risk taker. So if we look at these Arsenal players in midfield, who is a risk taker as compared to Eze? Odegaard, he does take risks sometimes. Rice definitely does take risks sometimes. Kai, yeah. Merino, yeah. Vieira as well. But who does take risks and effectively convert those risks into assists and goals? Like Eze, absolutely none. And that's why I've always said Arsenal need a number 9. Arsenal need someone that can come in and just improve the creativity of the team. And if we can sign a number 10 like Eze, it's even going to be better. Now, in terms of the players we're linked with, that is where the conversation actually shifts. Because when you compare him to a player like Morgan Gibbs-White, in terms of creative numbers, Gibbs-White and Morgan Rogers actually come closer to Eze. But in terms of scoring goals, Morgan Rogers for me would be a much better player than Morgan Gibbs-White. But both of those options are going to be very expensive, and that's why Arsenal didn't even bother wasting their time on them. Okay? But if you ask me, Cossy, creative-wise, yes, Morgan Rogers is a good player, scores a lot of goals as well, and Morgan Gibbs-White is a good player, scores a lot of goals as well, but I would still go for Eze, not because of the price, but because I think that he's very, very consistent, and we have seen enough of him for us to go, good player, right? And then Xavi Simons, if I was to compare him to Xavi Simons, first and foremost, the flexibility of those two is insane. They can play anywhere in attack. That's number 1. Number 2, goals, I go with Xavi Simons. Xavi Simons is more likely to give us more goals than Eberechi Eze. And then in terms of Assists, I think I would go with Eze. In terms of assists. So where would he play? Well, after playing a 4-3-3 system, I expect him to be in that 4-3-3, either as a left half space or in the right half space. Or you could have him on the left wing or right wing. He can also play in that 4-2-3-1 system where he plays as a typical number 10 if Mikel Arteta wishes.